YouTube? My name is Cheryce. Welcome to Reese TV. Glad that you're here. And welcome to another episode of Makeup News, where I do my makeup as I give the news. So without further ado, let's make up as I give the news. Today we're going to talk about part 2 and part 3 of the Jonathan Majors interview. Each part was just an extension of the first part. So we got to learn a little bit more as they extended the interview. So, what did we learn? Well, we learned that he did cheat. We learned that him and Grace Jabari were broken up before the text messages that show that he allegedly manipulated her to not go to the hospital. So, what did we learn from those text messages? Well, we learned that it's fake, came before everything else. It seems like what she did on March 24th, 25th is also what she did at that point. That somehow in some way she hurt herself and he had no idea about it. But it makes sense as to what he meant by it doesn't matter if you actually told the truth that I had no idea about this. It's still going to come back and bite me in the butt. And we saw that, right? We saw that with the aftermath of what happened on the 24th or 25th of March. For the most part, it seemed like the interviewer was on his side, but she did ask some questions like, well, you lied to us before. How do you know that you're not lying to us now? The only thing that was mentioned that he lied to us before was that he wasn't cheating. But apparently he was. He came out on the interview and said, yeah, I was cheating. I should have been a man about it. I should have broken up with her. So today's makeup is for a headshot session. Headshot sessions, I've read that they're supposed to be almost like very natural, but I've also seen women with makeup with these headshots. So it's a very confusing type of thing. And so what I decided to do was just do some research on the actual photographer. The photographer is Kelsey Edwards. She has a very impressive portfolio and I'm really excited to work with her. I'm excited that my agency has worked a deal with her. And in going to her site, I just looked at actresses who look like me and I'm using them as my inspiration for my look. And hopefully the photographer is like, great, let's get into it. Now, typically this photographer does makeup as well. But since my agency only made a deal for a 30-minute session or a mini session, I have to do my own makeup. So regarding the overall reaction to the interview, the main person I was waiting for his reaction was the behavioral art, Spidey. He has a background in behavioral therapy, and I have a background in behavioral therapy, and I kind of wanted to see as to whether or not he picked up what I picked up about the interview. Some reactions to the interview, not necessarily from Spidey, but even from his guest, who is Nate the lawyer. Nate the lawyer has opinions about race that typically I don't agree with. And so when he came out with his reaction to it, honestly, I was surprised that his reaction was more positive towards Jonathan Majors, but he still did throw out the fact of it could possibly be racially influenced. Like, he didn't even look at Alvin Bragg's background. He just said, well, Alvin Bragg is black, so it can't be racially influenced. What? Come on, Nate. As if there weren't slave drivers who were black. Come on. So, I wasn't looking for Nate the lawyer. But Nate the lawyer is Spidey's black consultant. So, here we are. So, Nate the lawyer brought up what some people would say is, well, the Jonathan Majors interviews seem very showy. And yes, I get where they're coming from. However, as Spidey mentioned, when you know people believe that you're guilty, you tend to oversell things because you're trying to emphasize how not guilty you were. So it's just, hey, can you believe that this actually happened? No, like, this really happened. Like, you believe that I'm guilty? No, I'm not guilty. Like, please, believe me. I am not guilty here. Now, Nate the lawyer did mention something in his own reaction as well as in the reaction of Spidey's video, is that Jonathan Majors should have just taken the L because according to New York law, you are able to get your property back with any force within reason. So you can't kill, obviously, but I agree with Nate that it seems like he just should have taken the L. But we don't know the deal that he made with Disney. So there has been news that Disney is going to continue with King amidst firing Jonathan Majors. So it goes back to my theory of they're going to keep Jonathan Majors. They're going to talk to Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors has to stay clean for a certain period of time. They might be also just waiting for the appeal to see how quickly they can resume with King, because he told them, hey, I plan to appeal. Okay. Another thing that he mentioned that I found hilarious, I found it like a direct hit at Grace Jabari. So he went ahead and he mentioned that in trying to run away from her, he said, I just got caught cheating and I was busted up, so I ran away. Who wants to stay around the person who is beating them up? Who indeed, Grace Jabari? Who indeed? Oh my goodness, direct hit. And I feel like ever since the interview, this man's personal life has been on social media a lot more than it ever has been. Like, Jonathan Majors is a private person, and it just now feels like everybody is watching him like a hawk. He also brought up a good point about people on top, or black men on top. The boogeyman is going to come and get you. The boogeyman meaning that something is going to knock you from being on top. Funny enough, that was something that Nate even touched on. It seems like Nate is only about racial issues when it comes to how much he himself has accomplished. Like, he mentioned how being a lawyer and how he was looking around and he noticed that there were very few black people around him. So he agrees without agreeing. Like, that, the boogeyman part was never really brought up. But he does agree that there is a racial disparity in being on top. Another surprising thing I found about Nate the lawyer is that he actually listens to The Breakfast Club. Let me take that back. I do know that he does listen to The Breakfast Club. However, it seems like he listens to The Breakfast Club in order to insert his more conservative thought process. There was somebody on The Breakfast Club who was a guest, and they said that systematic racism does not exist. And they were being challenged on the fact that systematic racism does not exist. The guest basically stated that systematic racism does not exist because we have black leaders. Now, the thing is, systematic racism does exist, but I understand what he is saying about it not existing. So his thoughts is that it doesn't exist because there are no laws that are put in place that are against a particular racial group. However, the point that the challenger was trying to say is that it's the people who are in charge that enforce systematic racism. Now, this is where you get into a very sticky situation because the people in charge, of course, we've had Barack Obama. He's always the poster boy of, hey, there's no such thing as systematic racism. But hear me out. Long story short, it's more so the mindset of the people. The president, though they are the leader of the free world, they are still governed by rules. The rules are governed by the people. The people still have racial biases. So that's where systematic racism comes into play. It's hard for people to say, hey, I'm going to leave behind my 500-year plus bias just to make this decision. It's hard. It really is hard. And so systematic racism does still exist because there are people who still have those biases. Yes, black leaders do exist, but as Nate the lawyer also admitted while stroking his own ego, there are very few black people in white areas. Oh, and that grind my gears, right? He had the nerve to talk about Jonathan Majors stroking his ego by saying, oh yeah, I'm a great man, and comparing himself to Martin Luther King and Barack Obama. So what Nate said and what some other black people are saying is Jonathan Majors is not great because of his profession. Martin Luther King is great because he was a minister who used his platform for civil rights. Barack Obama, duh, he was the leader of the free world. He was president. Okay, so what Nate said is what we typically hear, is that if you're not one of these practical professions, then you aren't great. Nate even mentioned how much Jonathan overcame and how he has done great work. But even though he has done great work, even though he overcame a lot in such a short period of time, he is not a great man. Make up your daggone mind, Nate, and everybody who thinks that way. Make up your mind. And maybe I'm saying this as a person who is of a non-practical profession. But that is so unfair. How can we say you can be whatever you want to be and then at the same time say what you want to be isn't important? What? And yes, it grinds my gears because honestly, I could have been an actress a lot sooner if I didn't give into that mindset. This is a horrible mindset, understandable mindset, because honestly, you can't really make a living in America if you want to follow your dreams, if it's not a practical job. But it's wrong. It's wrong that we keep on pushing it. And Nate the lawyer, he's on YouTube, right? That is not a conventional platform for a lawyer. And it makes more sense about his thought process now knowing that he once was a cop in New York. But the thing is, my brother is a cop in Alabama. And he says that in order to be a good cop, you have to have a more liberal thought process. That's probably why Nate the lawyer is no longer a cop. And I commend him for that. So this time around, I'm going to use an actual concealer. I'm using a concealer from e.l.f. And it was the darkest one that they had. This is called Rich Chocolate Camel Concealer. So let's see if this works. If not, I have my handy dandy lipstick to make up for the things that it's not going to do. I mean, my lipstick is darker. You see that? Do you see that? My lipstick is darker than the actual darkest concealer that they have. So I already have my doubts, but we'll see. It's a shame that I can only get white girl makeup basically from the stores, and I have to get black girl makeup from online. I would like to see more black girl makeup. I really do. It makes no sense that I have to go to a specialty place for black girl makeup. So I think that is all I have to say about the Jonathan Majors interview. If I realize I forgot anything, I'll circle back. But let's talk about Katt Williams and his interview. Man. So let's get on to what made me sad first. What made me sad was that Katt Williams is not a nerd. And so he kept on making a lot of incorrect nerd references. Like he said that Daniel Radcliffe was in Lord of the Rings. The Katt is the typical black man, right? They're not nerds. I don't think he ever posed that he was a nerd. I mean, Cat in a Hat, that's a children's book. It's been around for a while. If my name was Cat, yeah, I'll use Cat in a Hat. No problem. So I don't believe that that was him posing as a nerd. Now, things that he said are things that just made sense to me. I went to see The Kings of Comedy twice. And when I saw it the second time, I noticed that Cedric the Entertainer did not have any new material. None. And the thing is, there are people in Hollywood who back him up. One of my favorite comedians, Dave Chappelle, basically backed him up. Yes, he scolded him, but he did back him up. He said, yeah, it's true, but you shouldn't have said it. Dave Chappelle comes from the vein of you don't say anything about family. In our black community, that is extended to black people. Anybody who's black, you don't tell on them. And so he said, yeah, I mean, that's true, but we're all trying to make a living here. You don't tell on your fellow black people. You don't. And did he say anything about any of the white people? Now, what he was trying to say, because there are people who brought it up, like, well, no, he said this about this white person and this white person and this white person. None of those white people are actual comedians. So, in context, Dave is right. He didn't say anything about any of the white comedians. But, once again, Katt Williams is your typical black man. He's not going to concern himself with white people. So, let's see here. Lips. We will keep with this one. I'm scared to go for the one that I love the most because this baby don't come off. Well, she doesn't come off very easily. She a strong black woman. Now, of course, is a question of how much blush we go for, because if we go too much, well, we could actually take away from all the, hey, this is supposed to be a natural look type of thing. But I have a 2-hour trip to my destination, so it's a good possibility that this blush will be basically long gone by the time I actually get there. Ooh, you know what? I forgot to put this along my cheek. Hopefully this is not too late. Oh man, I'm just batting 100 here. Other things that he mentioned was about the whole Steve Harvey stealing thing. Honestly, I thought that was just black TV. I didn't think anything about him taking Mr. Cooper and making it into his own show. I never thought about it. However, it makes perfect sense. And I think his name is Mike Curry. He even came out and said it, like, yeah, that was me. That was mine. And it's kind of hard not to look at both of the shows and not say, yeah, you stole, Steve, you stole. But though he stole, he is doing a lot of other things that are original. He has his own Steve Harvey show. He has a book that, funny enough, was made into a movie. He's on The Family Feud. Now that one is just basically him, feeding off of his audience. He did the Apollo. So I think that he did enough to say, well, yeah, he might have stolen in the beginning, but he's very calculated. He knows people. He has gotten to know people in order to move forward. But you see that Cedric the Entertainer is like, you don't even see him. Like, the only time that I've seen him recently was when he's combating what Katt Williams had to say. But other people of the Kings of Comedy, D.L. Hughley, still good, right? Everybody loved Bernie Mac. And even Katt Williams had nothing bad to say about Bernie Mac. But the others who are in that fold, yeah, nothing, right? You have nothing else to say. Cedric, what else are you doing? He was always the weakest link of Steve Harvey. The good thing about Steve Harvey is that he brought people along with him. He brought people to the top with him. I commend him for that. I have a dream of doing the same exact thing. If I eat, we all eating, okay? We are all eating. I'm bringing everybody with me who has been with me from the very beginning. I'm going to try my best not to be fake, even though I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some people who are going to be like, well, I was with you when. It's like, okay, yeah, let's talk about when, and let's talk about what happened between when and now. Because the only reason why I would not bring somebody from when is if they did something in between when and now. And maybe we can talk about it. Maybe we can figure out what exactly happened. Let me understand your mindset so that we can move forward. And they say that Aries hold grudges. I'm an Aries. Proud one. I'm an April Aries, but I am, to a fault, forgiving. I will listen. I will hear you out. If I believe that you have wronged me, I'll still hear you out and see if there was just a misunderstanding. But please believe, when I shut you out, I have given you 3 chances. Maybe you didn't know you were given 3 chances, but no. Just know that you were given 3 chances before I shut you out. Any case, my makeup is done and I feel fabulous. But anyway, I gotta go, and so I will catch you later. Goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.